And okay, welcome everyone to this workshop for city city halls of the future, Autarquias do Futuro. Today with us we have from Portugal the Mayor of Valongo, José Manuel Ribeiro, and from Australia we have Cindy, which is the head of customer and community from Harvest Digital Planning. And we have also Sherridan, Bourne from Banyule, that are going to share with us what they are doing. Everyone is doing with citizen engagement. For me, as a way for us to understand what is WireMaze, and I would like to introduce you. When I thought of, okay, just a quick introduction, what does WireMaze do? And I could be telling you and speaking 2 hours or more about all the projects we do. But I would like to, instead of that, start to introduce you WireMaze as a story. A nice story, I hope, but as a story. Because WireMaze started 20 years ago. We started working with city councils, and working with local government made us like believers, and we now have sort of a religion. Okay, city engagement for us is like our holy grail. We have 3 main pillars of this religion, that which are communication, transparency, and participation. Our platform, of course, WireMaze City5 platform is like our Bible with all the 24 chapters, which our solutions, some of them for communication, some others for fix my street kind of thing solutions, some others for participatory budgeting, etc. We, in the middle of this, the guilty ones, and I must say, José Manuel Ribeiro, you are one of the guilty ones. It was working with the local government, with the city councils, that make us, instead of producing only software solutions, we look at citizen engagement like almost a religion. This is why, because they were the ones that, just as saints or prophets, they gave us a wonderful view that what a wonderful world it could be if citizens are engaged in and with a citizenship, a good citizenship. We saw this, and we, of course, became followers of them. They work every day to do this. They are, like Gisela from Valongo likes to call them, our heroes. We learn from them every day. We execute projects for them, and we share their knowledge. And this Autarquias do Futuro is a program where we join everyone in a sharing moment. In Guimarães, for example, we learn a lot with website user experience. We learn a lot with building portals for suppliers. We learn a lot with many other projects. In Agda, for example, we learn a lot how to engage with citizen apps, for example, and make them useful for day-to-day things. In Paredes and Vila Franca de Xira, we learn a lot on how to do citizen portals for them to have services online and for them to be able to have services in a very useful way. In Matosinhos, for example, we learn how to, even on the verge of the pandemic, to receive thousands of applications for jobs without paper and very streamly. And in Valongo, we have learned, in among many other things, a huge amount of things on citizen engagement and PB. They are doing PB in many ways. They are always innovating, and we have been learning for the past years that we are joining them in this journey. I remind when I first met José Manuel Ribeiro, it was in Barcelona. I was pitching on a startup contest, and most of the juries were Spanish. And so I said, okay, I'm going there just for the fun, and the Spanish will win, because most of the jury is Spanish. José Manuel Ribeiro was there, and yes, we won, okay? And in the end, we talked a little, and he said to me, okay, we must do this and apply this to Valongo, because we are already doing it, but offline, and we must do it on online. And the amazing thing is, 3 or 4 years later, I was again in Barcelona with José Manuel Ribeiro, and he was winning a prize from the International Observatory for Public Democracy. And he was, Valongo was in showing the world, not only Portugal, what the amazing projects that they are undertaking. And in the end of the day, this resumes to only one thing. It's proud of what the local government in Portugal, the transformation that they are doing, the work that they are doing every day, and thankful for us at WireMaze that they are allowing us to be a part of this process and of this path that they are taking. Okay, I will end here. If there are any questions about WireMaze, I will be able to answer them in the end. I will put Cindy to speak now. Okay, Cindy?
Yep. Thank you, César, for inviting myself and my guest Sherridan to attend today. We feel really proud to be in the company of people that are doing such amazing work. Mayor José and Gisela, the work that you guys are doing, we really admire it. And to be in the same room with you today is a real honor. So thank you for letting us be here today. My name is Cindy Lenferna de la Motte. I'm the head of customer and community at Harvest Digital, based in Sydney, Australia. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm hosting this session on the traditional lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation in Australia, and I pay my respect to Aboriginal elders, both past, present, and emerging. At Harvest, our vision is to empower government and its citizens to collectively deliver a better future for people and place. And similar to César, I want to tell a story as well. We describe ourselves to the world as a civic participation company that enables people to actively shape the cities and communities through technology. Our team consists of urbanists, community engagement advocates, and technologists, and together we work with cities all across Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and the US. We have created a technology called the Hive that is specialist software designed to connect governments and its citizens and to empower them to shape the cities that they live in. And today, one of my customers, Sherridan Bourne, is going to tell her story. But before I do that, I thought I'd just take a moment to reflect about the year that it has been as an online engagement provider. And César, I'm sure you will acknowledge this, that it's been one heck of a year, a roller coaster ride. In Australia, we went through a variety of different lockdowns in March, and overall, most of our states were able to contain COVID-19 and allow some freedoms to their citizens by June. However, in Victoria, which is where Melbourne is based, our second largest state with 6.5 million people, the story was very different. Due to very unfortunate circumstances, they did not come out of lockdown, and only this last weekend has some of the lockdown pressures been released. I'd really like to acknowledge the courage and determination of all of my friends and colleagues that have been living in this kind of confinement for what feels like an eternity. Your ability to manage homeschooling, limited exercise time, and working from home with your husbands has, as well as innovating in the community engagement space, is really admirable. And I just want to say huge respect to all of you. I know there are a few of you in the room today. However, this circumstance really shifted the participation of what digital engagement was in Victoria in particularly. Suddenly, there were no other options for engagement other than digital. Luckily, at a state level, Victoria had a really strong digital engagement platform called Engage Victoria, which uses our technology. That allowed them to communicate to all their citizens and stay engaged and ensure that important decisions and processes kept moving over these last 10 months. For our government customers that had digital engagement platforms in place, they were able to pivot and quickly be able to reassure their communities of what was going on. Sherridan and I have a bit of a joke that in many cases, organizations were pirouetting. It wasn't just one pivot they went through. Lockdowns came and went. And so organizations have had to be really agile. We've seen that the extreme constraints that COVID brought has allowed some of the most innovative community engagement work that we've seen in a long time. We see how local governments have come together as organizations and reconsidered the question, how might we engage and stay connected to our community? We have seen the trust being built in government at both the state and local level really increase. And we've seen deep and wide use of digital engagement and reaching groups that previously were not engaged. Over the last 10 years, Harvest has built a huge technology solution that we believe would allow citizens to have a voice in shaping their places of where they live and work. But in 2020, through COVID-19 in Victoria, Australia, we saw this, our dream, become a reality at scale overnight. Suddenly, we are seeing our government customers really innovating in projects using the full tool set of what we imagined for them. They're experimenting with Zoom sessions. They are planning submissions online. They're using PB tools. They're hosting art competitions. They're providing hubs for business recovery initiatives. And overall, they are connecting and listening with their communities. Some of the most popular features we've seen have been our mapping tools that allow social and spatial collaboration. And one of the things that emerged from COVID-19 is that people are really deeply connected to the streets and neighborhoods that they live in. We learned that if you take time and give them the opportunity to engage for their neighborhood, they will. We also learned that if you spend time thinking about the sector that your community is working in and bring diversity together, some interesting results will emerge. Sherridan will be testament to that. We strongly believe that there's a place for both digital and face-to-face engagement, but the last 10 months have proven what is possible with digital, and it's revealed some really exciting new opportunities. We look forward to a new horizon in community engagement for our customers as they realize the options that they have to connect with their communities and the positive impact that they can make by leveraging their new digital skills. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Now we'll move on to José Manuel Ribeiro, City Mayor from Valongo. Já está.
Well, good morning, everybody. Bom dia a todos. I have to use only one language, so I think it's better to use the English. It's not my native language, but I will try to do the best. So thank you again, everybody, and thanks the team. Please allow me to say thanks for the municipal team that is organizing this European Local Democracy Week. We have in Europe, I don't know if you know this concept, it was created some years ago by the Council of Europe the Council of Europe, it's the oldest political organization of what we call the big Europe, not only the European Union, but also the rest of the European countries. And following the creation of the local power charter some years ago, they created this initiative day because of 15th of October, connected with the importance of local autonomy. The name is European Local Democracy Week. And so some years ago, when we were starting our mandate, our first mandate in Portugal, we can be elected for 4 years, and then we can be re-elected twice only, the same person. It's a maximum of 12 years. It's a Republican principle, as you know, to change, to force the changing of person. So, and when we were starting, we found out through the university this initiative, European Local Democracy Week. And what we have done, it's very simple. We just adopted, and we found out that it was a great example, a great, I can say, a great pretext to justify a lot of things we do, and also to show community what we do during the rest of the year. So why I'm talking about this? Because if we are talking about engagement, and not only both physical engagement or digital engagement, and of course we can talk about the challenges of the coronavirus pandemic, before that we must answer the question: what is our objective when we are managing, when we are governing a local town, a region, a country? What is our opinion, not only from the mayor, but also from the team, from the community? What is our opinion about democracy, local democracy, the role of people? So, because if we don't start with those questions, I think we can do a lot of things, very nice things, very fancy things, with great software, with you know, a lot of marketing and very sexy things. Allow me to say very sexy things, but we are not going to change nothing. Or at least, well, when I say change, sometimes we don't have to change. We are not going to, for example, to strengthen democracy, and in this case, local democracy. Because I always say this, because this is the point. If we don't understand this, we might misfit a lot of things we do between people, communities, and the government, the government action every day, the government everyday action. And that's why we assume that it is very important for us in our community to invest in autonomy, invest in autonomy of people autonomy, citizen autonomy, citizen empowerment. In this very simple idea, we want all our fellows to be like, for example, sometimes I use those movies from television. If it's a woman, I say, well, we would like to have Lara Crofts everywhere, or we would like to have MacGyvers everywhere. You know, I think you understand the idea. It is, of course, I'm just playing with images, but it's an idea to show in a simple way what we understand to be as a, you know, autonomous person, empowered person, someone that reads, that understands what is written, that is able to answer, is able to defend himself, is able to understand and to participate, is able to dialogue, is able to, you know, to understand tolerance, is able to dream. And when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about everybody. And when we say everybody, it is difficult because not everybody is skillful enough or is educated enough to participate in the same way as we participate. For example, today, I'm sure we are having a chat, a very interesting chat, in very early in the morning with what we can call this is a kind of special team that works with the people. We are not talking, sometimes and during this week, we have several sessions. Today is a workshop. We are now, today we are talking with people that are very important because they are, the connectors between a policy and its impact in the field. But try to see these. If we pose the right questions, it is it's really different the way you walk with the right questions in the beginning. So about engagement, well, what we are doing in Valongo, it's we have this attitude of we are not afraid of testing, we are always testing. So it's a great place to test, to experiment. And of course, democracy, it's in a way, it's a great system that enables us to test, because yesterday I was during a presentation of one. We are starting the process of planification, territorial planification. We have to do that in Portugal because of changes in the law, and not only Valongo, but the other municipalities. And I was saying that it's a big difference between democracies and other systems is that, information, it's one of the most important thing, and dialogue and debating. And so it's the right, the right environment to test. Why not to, give power to test softwares, to test methodologies, to do a lot of experiments. And so we do a lot. We have almost every year, I think it's every year, during the rest of the year, the 365 days, we have participatory mechanisms, not only PB, we have a youth PB. I think we are going to organize the 7th edition. It's also a great experiment because we are always, every year we change something. For example, 2 years ago, I decided I called the team and I said, listen, why don't we change again? And why don't we do one thing that might help people read more? And so we decided to create a rule that to participate in our youth PB, you must be a public library reader. And well, it's a kind of imposition. But listen, in democracy, sometimes you have to decide. It's not everything must be with like a democratic. No, you are the mayor. You have some share. You have opportunity to experiment. And so we have done that, and it was great. People adapted. So, and people participate in the same way, but they have to be registered in our municipal network of libraries. So, and it's good because probably a part of those kids, they will start reading. It's free, and it's a way of, this is the importance of experimentation, of experimenting without fear. If it's wrong, okay, we change. If it's right, okay, let's explore it. And so we have several initiatives, and nowadays we need, our next challenge is to engage more and more universities. we are now in a position after 7 years of several experiments in participatory democracy. We have already, we have already lots of information, lots of data that must be, studied by the university. Because we have to, it's a way of taking knowledge from what we are doing to share. It's also a dimension of democracy. We have to share, what we learn, we have to share with others. What I want to say about this challenge, challenge because of the coronavirus, listen, I think that we adapted, of course. It's the humans have this ability to adapt themselves and to cooperate. And of course, we will return to the physical world, but using more and more the new technologies. In a way, I think the coronavirus maybe no, it was in fact, coronavirus was a kind of accelerator of this transition. But I'm sure that when we after this pandemic, we will return to physical, because we are humans and we like to be with each other. It's not the same thing to use Zoom or other platforms. And democracy is also dependent of the presence of people. If I'm talking about local democracy, proximity democracy, and local democracy, it's not the same as national democracy. At the national level, you see more representative democracy working. At the local level, you have the representative democracy. I was elected, for example, but you have also lots of participatory democracy, and more. Not only, not only in an informal way, but more and more in informal way. And not only with you have, this is the beauty of being mayor. One day you start, it's a problem with a person, then you have a meeting with 10 people, and then you have in the afternoon an association, and then a political party, and then so you can, the school, fathers, students, you have this complexity of people and organizations all together. Some are formal, others are informal, and they build together. And it's funny because you have the law, you have to fulfill the law. For example, for me, everything we do, we have to fulfill the rules of the law. And it's important to have the law, because if you don't have, then you have problems like corruption, and you still have problems with corruption even with law. So the law is important. But what I want to say is that at the local level, at the proximity level, you have this opportunity to engage with everybody without frontiers, without, and you have also this opportunity to collect insights. This is also a very striking feature of the local democracy. You can collect insights, and you have thousands, you have an energy. Every town in the world, it doesn't matter the place, wherever you have people, you have energy. You just have to find the best way to collect those insights. So, and well, it's what we are doing. I want to thank WireMaze and César, because he just didn't told you that when I saw him in Barcelona, it was me that was going to talk with him. Listen, I don't know you, but I want to know you. It was like this. And it was really like this. I am like this. When I want one thing, I just do it. Because, I saw him, I really enjoyed the presentation of the software. And well, I just, listen, can we talk? I would like to work with you. And it was like this. It's the right way. It's the democratic way. So Cindy and Sherridan and our friends from Australia. I like Australia. I've been in Australia some years ago when I was the consumer ombudsman. I was for 3 years the Portuguese consumer ombudsman. I was the president of the National Consumer Institute in Lisbon, and I was there for the Congress of Consumer International in Sydney some years ago. Maybe you remember that. I was there. I was invited. I was invited to participate as a speaker, and I remember. What's the name of that famous beach not far from Bondi Beach?
Bondi.
I was in Bondi Beach. I visited your famous building in Sydney, and I really enjoyed Australia. We have some Portuguese community in Australia. I think we have more people in I think it's Melbourne. I think Melbourne. We have more Portuguese in Melbourne than in Sydney. I met some Portuguese there. And so you have friends here, and maybe we are going to start a good relation in the future. And after the coronavirus crisis, you are already invited to come to Portugal. And I'm sure you will invite us to go to Australia and to have some fun and to share and to go and to do a lot of things. And, democracy, I must say this, more and more I understand the Hebrew. There is a Hebrew saying that democracy is like a garden. You have to take care of it every day, and it's really true. It's a system at the same time very, very powerful. No, at the same time very powerful, but also at the same time very weak. Democracy has this at the same time these features. Very, very powerful system that you can engage everybody, you can change a lot of things, but at the same time it's very, very weak. If you and you see that in America, in the United States of America, ignorance, fake news, lying, the power of money, and you can do both things with the same system. You can elect a guy like Obama. It was or democracy can elect a person like Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was really a man that we don't see every year, and at the same time, democracy can elect a guy like Donald Trump. So you see, this is a very powerful system. What we have to do is to invest every day in this system, especially in people, because people is the basis of the system. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, José Manuel Ribeiro. I will go to Sherridan now. Okay, Sherridan.
We're going to do an interview style conversation, César.
Okay.
I just wanted to yes. I wanted to say to Mayor José, that was such a profound conversation, and I think that saying that you had in Hebrew is so powerful, and we will take that away and share it with our teams, because I agree with you. Gardens are extremely nurturing, but they're also fragile at the same time. And we love all of the examples that you shared, and we look forward to hosting you to a barbecue in Australia very soon, and you are very welcome. I wanted to take the opportunity to talk to you about a story and let Sherridan, who is the Community Engagement Manager at Banyule in Victoria, tell a story about a youth project that they ran that has just been really profound and delivered some insights that we have never seen before. But I know, Sherridan, that you wanted to do a welcome to country first. Can I hand over to you for a minute?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much, Cindy. And I've never tried any Portuguese before, but I'm looking in the little chat. And firstly, I am going to try Bom dia a todos. Did I get that right? Okay, I can see a few thumbs up.
Awesome.
So, good morning to everybody, and good evening from Cindy and myself here in Australia. It's with deep reverence that I acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional custodians of the land that holds me, and I pay my respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait elders, past, present, and emerging. I also extend my acknowledgement and deep respect to the traditional custodians of the land that holds you all. And it's an absolute honour and a privilege to be here this afternoon. And your speech was very, very inspiring. And I've taken some notes of some of the things that you've mentioned. And I will link that back to some of the content that I share with you this morning. But to start with, I think Cindy's overstated me. So I'm actually the Community Engagement Officer. So I'm not quite manager yet, but I'm a Community Engagement Officer working at the city of Banyule, which is a municipality just outside of metropolitan Melbourne. And I will talk to you a little bit more about my project, but I loved your reference to little Lara Crofts and little MacGyvers. So I think that's what we've been creating through our Children's Recipe for a Good Life project. So I'll hand back to you, Sydney, but good morning to everybody, and it's a privilege to be here.
Sherridan, can you give us just a little bit of a sense of the community that you're serving at Banyule?
Yeah, sure. Look, Banyule is where I live, it's where I work, and it's where I play, and I love it. Banyule is quite a beautiful place to be, but I'll just give you a little bit of a demographic snapshot of Banyule, which I'm sure is more what you're after. So the city of Banyule is located in Melbourne's northeastern suburbs, and depending on where you live in Banyule, you can be between 7 or 21 k's from the heart of Melbourne CBD, or the city of Melbourne. We have an established residential area with significant open space and parklands, and we're beautifully bordered by the Yarra River on the south side of our municipality and the Darebin Creek to the west side. In 2016, we had an estimated resident population of just over 127,000 people, with around 70% of those people being Australian born. 706 people in Banyule identify as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, and we actually have the largest Somali-born population in Victoria, with 493 Somali-born people living in Banyule. A little under 20% of our population have English as a second language, and over 120 different languages are spoken across Banyule, with Italian, Greek, Mandarin, and Cantonese being the main non-English languages spoken. Across our municipality, we have both pockets of affluence and pockets of disadvantage. And in alignment with this project, primary school aged children, so those aged between 5 and 11, make up 8.5% of our population, which equates to 10,364 children. So they sit right in the middle of our population scale as far as number and percentage, and they're absolutely really important stakeholders for us to consider, and that community voice stream that we really want to tap into. And that's exactly the aim of the project that I'll share with you.
So let's get straight on to that. The project that you run was called A Children's Recipe for a Good Life. What was the objective of this project?
Great. The primary aim of this engagement project was to seek children's input as key stakeholders into the development of our Child, Youth and Family Plan, which is a 10-year plan that we're developing. Our secondary aims were to highlight children as active, engaged citizens and vital stakeholders in civic participation. We wanted to show our commitment as signatories to the Victorian Child-Friendly Cities and Communities Charter. And in reference to our little Lara Crofts and our little MacGyvers, we were seeking to uphold the child safe standards, which specifically in child safe standard number 7, which is all about empowering children. So child safe standard number 7 recognises that children have a right to be heard and have their concerns and ideas taken seriously, which is exactly what we were seeking to do. We also wanted to raise awareness of the Child, Youth and Family Plan. And lastly, we really wanted to use this project as an opportunity for us to demonstrate the appropriateness and dynamic functionality of the Hive as a tool for children's engagement online. Prior to this project, we hadn't done any children-specific engagement using the Hive, and this was a perfect chance for us to stretch and see what was possible in this space.
Well, we know the project ran and has done an amazing, has reached some really amazing people. But what was some of the planning that you did in preparation for building out this digital project?
A lot a lot of planning. And look, although it's not always the funnest bit, there's a lot of planning that happens behind the scenes prior to an engagement project going live. And I know I'm likely singing to the choir here, but you can't build a house without a blueprint. Prior to the project even coming to us and the community engagement team, Children's Services had done a heap of research and consideration of their approach. They were taking into account things like the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, the Victorian Child Friendly Cities and Communities Charter, and the Australian Research Alliance for Children and Youth NEST Action Agenda, which outlined the 6 conditions for children to grow up happy, healthy and safe. And that then ended up informing the engagement plan that was developed. As part of our internal community engagement process, we work with project leads to develop an engagement plan. These engagement plans distill the engagement purpose and objectives, and they give your engagement program a true north. They explore the project negotiables and non-negotiables, so it's clear what stakeholders can and can't influence. They ensure clarity around how the information gathered will be used, and they explore and identify the stakeholders, engagement methods, channels of promotion and project timing, and determine what the measures of success will be for the engagement program. Look, the engagement plans are quite detailed, and a lot of hard thinking happens at this stage, and a significant amount of work went into this engagement plan. This plan had to remain quite fluid while we were navigating the impacts of the COVID-19 restrictions on in-person activities. The project team in Children's Services, Libby and Sharon, are both quite creative people and had so many great ideas for in-person activities, some really fun stuff. But given all that was happening in the world, eventually we had to make the call to select online as the primary engagement method. So just to take you back a step to that 1 week in March, when sort of everything changed and the world changed for everyone in terms of how we live, work, play, travel and connect with people. Typically in March, we host our large-scale children's festival, and we have thousands and thousands of families and children come together en masse for a day of fun activities. And normally we would weave some type of consultation activities into those face-to-face activities, and overnight it just all went. So, you know, we did make that decision to go online, but the great thing about making that decision to go online is that we knew it would be supported by children. There was a consultation that was undertaken in 2019 by Children's Services, and children of Banyule identified themselves that online is actually a really, really great way to ask them questions. And further to this, we'd moved to a remote learning environment, so it really was a perfect time to test the waters and dive into online engagement with children. Once the engagement plan was approved, so still in the planning phase, once the engagement plan was approved, I began working with leads to support the development of project content for our online platform, Shaping Banyule, which uses the Hive technology. And this is where we start to put flesh on the bones by exploring the ask and the most appropriate Hive tools to support this ask. And as a little bit of a side note, while we were navigating the impacts and changes of COVID-19 on community engagement, I was afforded time to explore the Hive demo site and gain a better understanding of the participation and content tools available. And I feel this has really enhanced my practice, and it really came through on this particular project. Libby and I worked really closely together, so Libby from Children's Services, during the content development phase, and it was great. She was really super responsive and open to ideas, and I believe it was Sharon from Children's Services who came up with the recipe theme for our engagement project. And from there, the ideas really started flying. They were like little synapses firing or sparks of inspiration. It did feel quite alchemical when that happened. For this particular project, we cast a trauma-informed lens over our questions, and we sought to take a global approach by depersonalising most of the survey questions. We ensured we weren't asking any identifying questions to protect privacy, and we also suggested that the activities be completed with help from a trusted adult. And just to add another layer to what we did, we also tested our questions and project pages on live humans this time around, which was incredibly beneficial. We had a handful of children trial the questions, including a class of students from a local special development school and a handful of staff members' children. Input was also provided by other question testers, and we were genuinely responsive to what was being said by our testers. And as a result of some last minute feedback, we did make 11th hour changes to some of the questions prior to the project going live. And I mean, this was a frantic last dash, but incredibly worthwhile. I think sometimes when you're working on an engagement project and you're so thick in it, it's hard to see the forest from the trees. So that other perspective is incredibly beneficial. Luckily, with this particular project, we had the rare gift of time that really afforded us these opportunities for additional exploration and refinement. And again, I think that this time just really did shine through with our end results and our project online.
What has some of the initial response been?
Yeah, the initial community response has been fantastic. We've had over 2,200 project page views and great quality responses from participating children, and we're really thrilled with this. Because the project was actually so popular, we ended up keeping it open for longer to build on the momentum and just to continue to grab quality input from our wise and wonderful stakeholders. Our internal community at Banyule has been very complimentary of the project, which has been super lovely. And since participating particularly in the Hive fireside chat, which we did just a little while ago, community engagement peers have reached out to us from across the state to learn more about the project and our approach. The response has been completely unexpected, but we're really proud of the project and we're so glad others are finding inspiration in it. And we've really been enjoying the sharing process too. And I know every time we share, I learn something new from Children's Services about their approach, or from other community engagement peers about their practice, and have gathered some other cool ideas to explore in the future. So the response has been amazing from everybody.
I suspect Gisela might want your email address and vice versa, because I'd expect that the two of you would have something in common to talk about. I wanted to just, I'm conscious of time, so I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about what have been some of the highlights so far in this project.
Highlights, yeah, I can absolutely share some of the highlights with you. You know, the highlight so far has been watching our vision become a reality online. A significant amount of thinking and work went into this project to ensure it was going to meet the engagement purpose and key objectives, you know, always coming back to the why. And having the look, feel and function of the project match our vision perfectly is such a great feeling. The amount of interest and praise for the project has been incredible, and we love sharing with others. But above all else, reading the responses of the children has been an absolute highlight. You know, they're so pure in response and so very creative, with just such great wisdom, insights and perspective, and they truly are mind-blowing. Did you want me to share some of those with you?
Please,
or did you want...
please.
Okay. I'll just find some, I've just got some quotes down on paper here. So some of our survey questions: how could we help someone who doesn't have a house, clean water or food? And some child wrote share ours with them, which is just so sweet. Go to the shops and get food for them and give them my pocket money to buy a house. What are things from your culture that are very important to you? People or children reference the Wurundjeri people, so the traditional custodians of our land. Language, storytelling and dancing, which is awesome. We had a child from India and they said, I am Indian and we take our religion very big. We always pray and celebrate our festivals like Diwali, which is Festival of Fire. So sharing their cultural knowledge with us through this engagement project. Another child wrote, where my parents are from and their stories and histories are really important to me. I love hearing about where I'm from. So again, going back to the power of storytelling and sharing. One of the other questions was, of all the things you're learning, what do you think will be most useful when you're older? And a child wrote, knowledge is important, but how to be a good human is most important. So learning about how to love, be patient, have kindness, gentleness, and self-control. I mean, you know, where does stuff like that come from? And last one, what's your special ingredient in the recipe for a good life? And a child wrote, thinking about others and love or loving others is the special sauce needed for a good life. It helps me not to worry about myself and help other people. If we all help each other, that's the best type of life. Just amazing, amazing.
Thank you for sharing some of those beautiful.
It's a mic drop for that child. Boom. Amazing.
Thank you for sharing some of that youth wisdom. How will you use some of these findings that you've got, and how will you report back?
So children's services will continue to involve children in the conversation and deep dive into the opportunities and issues highlighted. Our consultation findings will be made available on the project page, and we'll re-engage our key channels of promotion to share the findings. All of our findings will also be shared internally too, as the data will be relevant for other key areas within council, such as the environment, open space, our leisure and culture team, community safety, just to name a few. One of the activities in the engagement project was drawing. There was a drawing-based activity, and currently those drawings that children created, which was a visual representation on what a good life for children looks like, they're currently being shared online in an art exhibition for children as part of Children's Week. But I think we're going to come up with some other fun and creative ways to present these findings in keeping with the spirit of the project. Yeah, so if anybody on this global community has any ideas for sharing findings and outcomes that are quite creative, always welcome new ideas and new ways to do things.
César, would it be appropriate to just see if there were any questions of Sherridan from the people attending?
Yeah, just put on the chat that everyone with questions can ask on the chat, or we can open the microphone. Okay. While we wait for questions, and I know that being late in Australia and early morning in Portugal, we always tend to have a slow start. I have a couple of things here. First of all, I would like to say we were talking while the session didn't start. I live in Ovar, which is a very beautiful place. It has one thing that Valongo doesn't have, which is an ocean beach. So we have the ocean. Valongo has the mountains. We don't have mountains, unfortunately.
We had the sea some 1,000 years ago, so.
And that is very true, because Valongo is very well known in Portugal for having trilobites and stuff like that. And even the city hall has a awesome project nowadays for a rebuild of the building to be like a trilobite, which will be something amazing to see, almost as good as a Sydney Opera. But my thing is, I was 1 month in very deep lockdown in Portugal, so I could not leave my house. And fortunately, I don't live, I have a garden, so I spent a lot of time in the garden also. And hearing that there is a Hebrew saying that democracy is like a garden, I'm very pleased, because I thought of that every day during a full month. So I'm with the Hebrews nowadays. But just a question for the city mayor of Valongo. I would like Valongo, when we talk about youth PB, Valongo uses a very youth PB approach. You have in Portugal, there is many types of youth PBs. Some of them start at 16, almost an adult age, and you start very early. How is that? How do you think the kids are reacting, and what is your idea that the kids are going? How do you think the kids of today that started in PB now very young with 6 years old, how do you think they will be in the future with all these projects that you do to energize them?
Well, it's again the question of asking. I like to question things. I'm not the guy, I'm not that kind of person that likes to do, okay, let's do it. No. First of all, I ask why. Why are we doing this? You know, it's a good advice to to make questions. It's also democratic to ask. It's a very simple thing to ask. And in the beginning, when we decided, when I was running to be elected as a mayor, we had this strong will to implement the participatory budgeting. Of course, and it's important to have in mind the context. We had in the beginning, our municipality had very big, not very big financial problems. So we didn't have a lot of money, and these and that was something that in a way conditioned what our decision. So we found out that we could organize a participatory budgeting process, but it was not necessary to have a lot of money. And so we found out the youth PB. And what we have done, to answer your question, is that we were studying. I'm sure that Gisela remembers that. We just decided to study the examples of other municipalities, what they were doing, they have done, they were doing, they stopped doing. You know, it was 7 years ago, and we found out that with not a lot of money, that like we do in Valongo, you could organize a very special youth PB process, and that was we have done. That was what we have decided to do. We have. You ask me if there is a problem to engage kids with 6-year-old. Well, we decided to do that because we knew that is a way of engaging their parents, engaging the teachers. You know, I said during the first talk, experimenting, my friends, experimenting. If we could organize the PB starting with 16, what is the problem of organizing it with 6-year-old? 6 to 36. It could be 6 to 30, 6 to 40. Nowadays, with 40 years old, you are still a young guy. It's true. It's, you know, everything is changing every day, all the minute. So we decided to do that because we saw an opportunity to engage with not a lot of money, and also because of these. Because for a kid with 6-year-old, 7, 8, 9, if you say, listen, you have 10,000 euros to think about a project. If you ask Cindy or Sherridan or César, what you have 10,000 euros, you are going to say, oh, it's not a lot of money. We are not going to do a lot of things with that. But if you do the same question to a kid, for a kid, 10,000 euros, it's a mountain of money. They don't see money in the same way we do, you know? So we were experimenting, and it was a great decision because at the same time, nowadays we started with 10,000, only not with digital software. That was with WireMaze and César later. But nowadays we are going to, next year we will have 200,000 and 20 projects. And we were creating every year, you know. Nowadays we have projects inside schools, projects outside schools, 3 or 4 projects with intergenerational projects, we call it. It's projects of kids, but they can engage elder people, senior people. So with a very simple initiative called Youth Participatory Budget, in a way, you are engaging them, but also their parents, their mothers, their fathers, their teachers, their grandfathers, their grandmothers, everybody. And And also with this question, and this is a very important, we only, we have a system like César knows very well. We open the opportunity to participate, and you have all the projects, and then they have to pass through a kind of all the people that work in the municipality, all the divisions of the municipality. They analyze the projects to see if it's possible to do it with 10,000 euros. And when they go to the process of voting, every project that is elected we do it. We have in Valongo, our percentage of projects done is 100%. I don't know in Australia if you have this experience with PB. One of the big problems with PB, especially in big towns with millions, it's sometimes you have a lot of projects that were approved, and you don't have the project because it's impossible to do it, and that will create a lack of trust. People in those cases don't want to participate again because they don't trust the process. In Valongo, I think I'm going to say again, we have done the right questions in the beginning. We decided after studying, and we are open every year to change, to improve, to experiment, But the decision to engage from 6 was that, César. It's
Okay.
a way, it's an indirect way of engaging mothers, fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers and teachers and everybody.
I will maybe I will ask Sherridan, from all the ideas that you gathered from the kids, what was the most amazing one?
Oh,
And I know the question is very hard because you have a couple of them.
it is near impossible to answer that question. But through the data that we did gather, there was a really strong sentiment coming through from the children around the environment. So we've got a really strong level of environmental stewardship from our young people. That was incredible. And what else? Oh, look, I really can't pick one. I'm sorry. I just can't.
Can you pick 3?
one. Pardon?
Can you pick 3?
Can I pick 3?
Yeah.
The most incredible. Look, I feel that just from where I'm sitting, so this particular project, all of the data is being analysed by Children's Services, and they will be using the data in a meaningful way. But from where I sit, that particular question around culture and what is important to you, I felt that was a really important question with really great insight, things that we can bring back through our arts and culture team and things that can be experimented with children. We did also, what's your special ingredient in a recipe for good life? I did share that one response, but there are things that as adults, we just forget about. So children reference art and fun and to have dreams and enjoy the little things, hugging and love, just those really simple sentiments that can just get so buried when we get caught up in our day-to-day. So I think that they're just really beautiful insights and kind of step us back to the essence of what's important and what's valuable.
Okay. Cindy, can I ask the same question to you? What is the most amazing thing you have seen so far and make you like, this is it?
In this project?
In your full experience with citizen engagement?
Well, thanks for preparing me for that question, César, before. I'm really inspired by actually something that's going on in Victoria at the moment. They have just had legislation changes which have meant that deliberative engagement has now been legislated. And I think this has really elevated the requirements for what community engagement means. And it's put a lot more focus in meaningful and considered conversations in the public realm. It can't just be a box ticking exercise anymore. We're only just starting this journey, and Mayor José has really inspired me with his thinking and some of the things that he shared. But we don't always hear that from perhaps some of our publicly elected officials. And I would love to see a little bit more authenticity and a little bit more of this kind of inspiring conversation happening. So I feel like I've seen some really interesting starts to this conversation, but I think that some of the democratic processes, and particularly PB, do not really exist strongly in Australia and New Zealand. It's not something that we know a lot about. It's not something that we use. And so from some of the things that I've been hearing from you, César, and what I know that is happening in Valongo, I think we could learn a lot. So I feel like this is where the cooperation and the collaboration needs to come into play, because I feel like we could adopt some of the things that you guys have already experimented with and have seen as being successful. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let me share a thing with. I'm always, and I think over these last few days in Autarquias do Futuro, I've said this a couple of times, so it's recorded. The mayor of Valongo usually tells me he likes to benchmark. A pretty word in Portuguese, or not Portuguese, but we use it in Portuguese, a pretty word in Portuguese to say copy paste. But what he says a lot is that we should not do copy paste. It's copy, alter, paste. And this is, I think, one of the wonderful things that his view of how a city should be run. And it's not like you are here, so I'm just bragging you, but I usually use you as an example. Oh, sorry, as Manuel Ribeiro, because this is what the local government should do. We should share our experiences. I've heard with plenty of attention all the process, very detailed process that Sherridan described of involving people in the question definition. In the last few days, we have been talking about how to measure impact on PB processes, for example. And the only thing, and thinking now back, using what you have said and thinking back on what has been said, no one talked about asking the people on what are the questions to measure the impact on what they are doing. So how should we measure all these, not only PB, but all these citizen engagement tools that the local government are implementing? Okay, we should have measures, we should have questions, but involving the people on the question making process is wonderful. And I've listened very carefully with Sherridan, and adapting the questions to the people is one of the things I've collected from this morning, and I will use. Okay, I will use. I don't know if anyone has some other question. Maybe I will just use Gisela. Gisela is here present, and I will use her to do the same question. What has been the project that you have been most proud of implementing, and when you saw the result you said, yes, this is it, this is why I work every day 24 hours, no, not 24 hours, but almost 24 hours a day. Okay. And Giselle, I will ask you to unmute. Yes.
Okay, I was not prepared for this, so
No one is.
if I talked in a big way, not only professional, I only could imagine saying one word, being a mother, because I am a proud mother. And in my work, I discovered that I can also be some kind of that doing what I do. I discovered with José Manuel Ribeiro, he gave me this opportunity to work with youngsters and with the people. So my most proud work is seeing every day in everybody, in one person, for example, some change. We believe that we have 1,000 inhabitants, and so we have 1,000 projects, because they are all one project from themselves. So it's that what I believe, and it's what I am most proud of, seeing the difference between yesterday and today in someone that we work with, even if he is a youngster or an oldest or an active person. I don't, it's not, that's not important. What is important is to see some changes. So with all of the projects, the participation projects that we have here in Valongo, we have a lot, because José Manuel Ribeiro created an umbrella called the most community. Help me, César. My English is very bad at this hour of the morning.
No worries. What do you want to say?
Comunidade mais esclarecida, comunidade mais participativa.
Okay. City, more enlightened.
Community, more participative community.
Yeah,
yes, is that.
More enlightened community, more participative community. So that's the motto for Valongo. That's the motto that they use to introduce all this work on youth, all this work on literacy, citizen literacy that the mayor has been talking and Gisela is talking now.
And we all believe that all the projects should be very linked. All of these participative projects must be linked, for every person understands that if they participate in one, they can participate in the other. Being, for example, a reader will prepare the persons to do active citizenship. You understand me? So I don't have one that it's my favorite one. I have one big umbrella that is called Valongo and his citizens.
Okay, thank you. I will, Cindy, you have a question for José Manuel Ribeiro? Go ahead.
Mayor Jose, I wanted to ask you, what do you find are some of the challenges that are facing the work that you're doing around participation with citizens and ensuring that their voices are heard?
Well, it's the question I said. Listen, I was sending a message to Cindy because she was very kind with me, and I said, listen, I'm just a single guy. I'm just a simple person, and well, and that's the point. Listen, we after some years, 7 years as a mayor, it's not a lot of time. It takes time to understand communities. More and more, I understand that old expression of the British politics when they say it takes a lot of time to prepare a good politician, and it's really true because it's difficult. But answering your question, with 7 years of experience, what's my biggest fear is the reality of ignorance. For example, we have very high levels of ignorance. It's not, listen, I'm not talking about I'm talking about problems of functional literacy. It's, to be precise, it's functional literacy. You have thousands of people, all the system we live in. I'm not an anti-capitalist. I'm a very moderate guy. I'm social democrat, and but I'm not. The system where we live, it's a system that lives very well with ignorance. You know, the idea is, in a way, listen, the point is we need to have good consumers. You know, they have to be very good consumers. It's not the point. We need a system with very good citizens, because it's not the same thing to invest in citizenship and invest in good consumers. The consumer is a guy that needs to read and to count and to have money. And that's all, folks. And no. And that is the most, that's the thing that most worries me. It's the level of, you have very high levels of functional illiteracy. You understand the word functional illiteracy. I'm talking about people that went to school, but they don't have a lot of education. And a lot of time they don't understand what we are doing, what we decide, what they don't understand. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. That is a consequence of the system we live. So why am I saying these? Because listen, we are doing a lot of things in Valongo. And like, for example, in Brazil, in Porto Alegre, you have a place in Brazil where they started with the PB about 30 years ago. They were the champions of participatory budgeting process in the world. And listen, in Porto Alegre, if you read the papers, articles, studies, they had a kind of all the year environment of PB discussion, debating. And when it came Bolsonaro, Porto Alegre voted, the majority of the voters of Porto Alegre voted for Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro is an example of zero. It's the example, it's worse than Trump. And so sometimes I ask, we are doing a lot of things. We invest in thousands of hours. You have great software, great, in schools, we are investing a lot of our time. But what is can we have sure that our community understands democracy? Can we have sure that they defend democracy, that they are prepared, for example, to discuss? They are not afraid of discussing? Because the same way, your question is very important. The same way we learn about participation, you can also learn about how to not participate. It's like hate. You learn how to hate the same way you learn how to love. So that is the point. We never know if our community is really changing, because it's very difficult to go deep to understand, to understand if we are really changing the basics, the pillars, the way. For example, about transparency. Listen, and I know that in Australia you invest a lot also in about transparency. You can force by law all the transparency in the world. If you don't change at the same times the local life, of associations, clubs, because they also manage money. They also use money. If they don't do the same thing like governments, sooner or later you will have again the same problems, because You decided. That's the question. Sometimes people say that, listen, you are doing the policy is more marketing than real changing. And that's the point. We need to know if we are really changing behavior. Because whenever you change behavior, for example, if we, in a population of 100,000 people, imagine if we change 5,000 people, 5%, it's not a lot, but it's a lot of people that is going to be defenders of transparency, of dialogue, of debating, of democracy. It's a good group of allies, you know. So that is the point. In a way, it's I like what I do, but I always have this fear that I don't know if we are really changing the fundamentals, you know. But it's not a problem of Prolongo. It's a problem of every place. Also in Australia, you are doing great job, but you are not sure if you are changing the way people. If I ask Sherridan, if I say, Sherridan, are you sure that your fellows are not going to one of these days to choose for a nationalistic crazy guy? Sherridan, in an honest way, she cannot say yes because she doesn't know. And that is the point. That is my really great point. We don't know that.
But you still get up in the morning and you fight for democracy. And I can really feel it when I hear you speaking, that you have this passion for it. And we need leaders like that in the world to believe that it's possible to change.
It's like the Hebrews. It's like the garden. You just have to work every day. So I have to do that. And we have to do that. It's not only a task for mayors. Listen, mayors, the mayor is like an iceberg. It's the point of the iceberg. If it doesn't matter if you have problems above the level of the sea, so forget the mayor. You have to change all the iceberg, not only the point. Of course, the point is important.
Okay. Thank you, José Manuel Ribeiro, for that, for those words. I think that also with this pandemic environment that we all are facing, and I remind, for example, that Sherridan is still on lockdown. So here in Portugal is not that bad nowadays. But one of the things this pandemic, I think, has taught us that we are not sure. We are not sure of what is going to be tomorrow. The only thing that we are sure is that we have to take care of our families. They are not so many things as important as our families, our health, and this way of thinking about the well-being of our community, of our friends, of our environment, of our context. I just saw in the morning a post of José Manuel Ribeiro that was keeping track and having feedback on the status of not hospital beds, campaign hospital beds. I think it was in Irmesinde for people that are suffering from COVID. And that's the way of thinking. It's about thinking about the community, how to embrace the community, listening to the community. And also I would like to say that democracy is, in my opinion, of course, and I'm not an expert, far from it, but democracy is a wonderful system, but very flawless, of course. And but most of all, democracy is also a system where we accept others and have the possibility of listen to others, while having also the possibility of trying to change their minds. And I go with a certain ambiguity, because it's very ambiguous what is happening in the States or happening in Brazil. But most of all, I think it's a lack of listening, in my opinion. And that's why I think citizen engagement is so important. Not just engagement for engagement, but you have to really listen. And that's where PB, as one part of that big, huge thing about citizen engagement, is wonderful, because we not only listen, but we say, if you are chosen, we are going to implement it. And that builds on the trust on the system, builds on the trust on the point of the iceberg. That is always very, I think the politicians are very sure of one thing in the morning, is that they get up to work towards their community, but in the end of the day, they will have lots of hands pointing the finger to them and saying, you are doing bad things, not the things that we want. And that's bad feedback for them. They listen more to bad feedback than to good feedback. And that's very hard for someone in psychological way, and that is very hard for them. And I saw all the pressure around pandemia. No one knew whatever to do. No one knew exactly what to do, but they were expecting that the city mayors should do what to do, and they could not fail. And they are only humans, I think. They are only humans, and they are trying to do the best. And I think everyone in the city, all the officials, are doing awesome work. They have truly the heroes on this during this pandemia. We saw them as truly heroes. We saw most companies closing. The city councils didn't close. Those city officials kept on working. The system kept on working, and that was awesome. Okay. I don't know if there is some questions, any final feedback. I remind everyone there is an open chat. If not, I would say I would go and ask Sherridan for some final words just to finish.
Thank you so much for having me here this evening. And I feel like I've learnt so much more than I've shared. And it's been amazing and inspiring. And that commitment to democracy and citizen participation has really, really got me. So it's been a privilege and a pleasure to be here. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Sherridan. I will ask the city mayor of Valongo from some final words.
Well, just to say thank you, and all the best for you in Australia. Okay. If you need to learn from our experience about me, I can send you information. Okay.
Okay. Cindy, any last final words?
Just thank you so much for the generosity from Mayor José, Gisela, yourself. Like Sherridan, I feel like I have taken away from this meeting much more than I contributed. I am truly inspired by the work that is happening in Portugal. Thank you for hosting the meeting in English. Because our Portuguese is so hopeless, we really appreciate you going the extra mile. You have been so generous in every way. And Mayor José, I would absolutely love to learn more about the work that you and your team are doing and contribute anything we can offer in that space. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and for those insights that you shared. To hear a leader in this space talk in this way about democracy has just been incredibly inspiring.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Cindy. And some final words. I would also like to thank all the sharing that everyone has done this morning. I remind that the week of the European Week of Local Government that Valongo is commemorating still only started this week. We still have a couple of more weeks, so it's a weekish kind of program, and we still have a couple of more weeks, lots of sessions, and we are also having the Autarquias do Futuro for a couple of more sessions. Even today on the afternoon, we have the online services session. And for this part, I will, to finish, Sarah has put a link for menti.com where you can have, let me share my screen. If you fill the link, yes, share screen. If you go to menti.com with this link, you will help us create this is called I'm lacking the nuvem cloud, word cloud, a word cloud, yeah, a word cloud around this session that later on can be shared and co-created. So with this co-creation around this session, I'm leaving you this link for you to see and fill in. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for our Australian people to be here late afternoon, and for the Portuguese people for being here so early in the morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Yeah. Okay.